Welcome back to the Cover 3 podcast here on CBS Sports. That's Tom Finelli. That's Bud Elliott. That's Danny Cannell. I'm Chip Patterson coming to you live at youtube.com/cover3 and everywhere you get your podcasts on demand. Thanks for hanging out. Smash that subscribe, smash that like, and come and join us in the chat, a.k.a. the Cover 3 Tailgate, where our friend Ollie jumped in and he's just trying to stir the pot. I mean, sometimes you just let a fire burn, and sometimes you throw the kerosene on it. Because Ali says, who's the smartest guy on the pod and why? Okay, I am fired up to be back running 4 wide with everyone again. We are in the month of July, and that means we've got win totals. We've got media days. We've got everything happening. Before the end of this show, we are going to give you a look ahead to the Big 12 media days. We're going to take a look at what was a big recruiting weekend and really recruiting couple of weeks, some news and headlines and more. What do we think? Who's the smartest guy on the pod?
I think it's Chip.
No. I was going to say,
when he's not here, it falls apart.
Listen, like skills, talent, and smarts, those are very different things. Okay, like skilled, yes, talented, sure, but smart, absolutely not.
Humble, definitely.
I was going to say, I think we can take, if you're watching on youtube.com/cover3, I think we've determined that like DK and I are obviously in the back of the class, right? We have to come in for extra.
I was going to say only 2 of us went to the Harvard of the South. So I think it comes down to me or Bud. Yeah. Like, that's what I was thinking. That eliminates you 2 clowns from up north.
I think it's on that. I think it's on that side. One of these.
I don't know.
We'll have a brain. Hey, how about this? We'll do some some IQ testing out in Las Vegas at all hours of the day and night. We'll just sort of see how it goes for our
3 a.m.
coverage.
3 a.m. IQ tests.
Cover 3 live from Las Vegas
at a blackjack table. We'll all be taking an IQ test at the same time.
And then Danny. That's how Danny wins. You know, that's how Danny gets it. So, we are fired up because it feels like the season that is here, and so we're this is where it goes. Again, Big Ten Media Days will be there live, providing all kinds of coverage here on the show on CBS Sports Network, CBS Sports HQ, and so much more. All right, this one isn't fun. All right, snake bitten is the term that comes to mind for me for Notre Dame star offensive tackle Charles Jagusah. He had it was a shoulder, like pec injury during fall camp last year, misses a bunch of time, works his tail off through rehab, actually comes back to help a depleted offensive line during Notre Dame's run all the way to the national championship game, getting to play a little bit in the playoff. Then we've got a UTV accident over the weekend. It was confirmed by Notre Dame. He is expected to make a full recovery, but Tom, just kind of brutal on the personal front, but then also for Notre Dame as well, suffering yet another injury to a player who, since he was recruited, has always had that blue chip, potential future NFL offensive lineman outlook. What do we make of this latest sort of disappointing sidestep for Jagusah?
I mean, there are 2 ways to look at it. It's one, he was hurt almost all of last season, and Notre Dame was able to withstand it and deal with it. He came back in the playoff and helped out. The other is that I don't know that Notre Dame has the same kind of depth, or at least ready depth on the offensive line. I think they've still got plenty of talent, but I don't know if they have as much experience and guys ready to step in. And I think when you look at this, like, we don't know the timeline. I've seen anywhere from like 3 to 6 months, depending on the severity of the break and, obviously the position he plays and getting back to full health and being able to be at a point where he can get in there and start. But even if it's the short end of it, we're talking 3 months. That means he's going to miss September. Who does Notre Dame play in September? They're at Miami. They've got Texas A&M. They've also got a road trip to Arkansas where you're going to be going up against some, SEC defensive linemen. So I think this is a huge blow for Notre Dame, not one that they can't overcome, but it certainly decreases the margin of error that they're going to have in a couple of really big games to start the season.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that you're having to do surgery on a compound fracture probably indicates that's a fairly serious fracture, and that is just according to Dr. ChatGPT. So does needing surgery equals a bad fracture? Not always bad, but usually means a more complex injury. Surgery usually means the bone shifted out of place, the bone broke into 3 or more pieces, the break is near the joint and wrist limited movement. There's risk to nerves like the radial nerve or blood vessels, or the fracture is open, meaning like, broke the skin. Compound. So TLDR, not all surgical fractures are compound, but all compound fractures need surgery. Surgery usually means more than a clean break. Either it's misaligned, unstable, or involves multiple pieces. So I would say seriously. I would say this is. I mean, first of all, I'm really encouraged for that he's able to get back to full health. I think the question pivoting to football becomes when.
Yeah.
And like Tom's like, do we think he's going to be ready to go for Miami and A&M? I would kind of doubt it.
I mean, there's a Ruben Bain over there, you know, like there's
Right.
there are some dudes and some defensive linemen that are going to be tough. And you've got a new quarterback, no matter who it is, whether it's CJ Carr or Kenny Minchie. I mean, Danny, what go ahead, bud.
Can we discuss what is UTV? Growing up, it was always ATV.
Ultra terrain vehicle.
Is it?
No, there is a difference. I think UTV is that the one that's covered. I mean, there's definitely a difference in UTV.
But UTV is like a gator.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay,
I think so. Maybe some. Yeah, utility. I think it's a little bit
okay.
more high powered, maybe.
So
but yeah,
like
I always
you can crash it and also haul logs.
Yeah, that's a good question. We'll have to have somebody give us the answer there. We'll have to ask ChatGPT.
Oh, look at this. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, utility task vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
So side-by-side seating and a steering wheel instead of solo and the two handlebars. Either way,
often with a roll cage for added
so they
safety.
actually do have an ATV race outside of South Bend, like right after 4th of July, apparently. So I did not know that, but when I first got tipped to this, and then another guy hit me in DMs, like, by the way, they have this big ATV race. I wonder if this was that, but I don't.
So the easiest thing is the ATV is one rider and one driver on one vehicle, and
it doesn't have the cover like a
multiple.
gator,
Yeah,
and
so
not a dashboard.
UTV has the side by side, which are fun. They are a blast. From the football perspective, I feel like we had almost this exact same conversation last year, right before the season.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was like it was the week of the Texas A&M game. Remember that?
Yep.
And if it's not a quarterback or and this is not, it's not to diminish somebody's injury or losing a starting caliber player, but I do feel like Notre Dame has already proven last year they can replace multiple offensive linemen and be okay, even against the best competition like they're going to face in the first month of the season. I mean, the first 5 weeks of the season are brutal for them, but I feel if anybody's equipped to handle it, it's Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Yeah, they recruit the position so well, but ultimately, like, Jagusah's kind of a freak. So having him, it does matter.
That's where I think
that I'm playing guard too. I mean, I see him. Is he playing guard or tackle? I mean, I do think there's kind of a difference there. He's filled in at guard. I think the expectation was that he was going to play tackle.
But they did have, like, Knapp stepped in for him last year and played well.
Yep.
And Knapp is, so it's like, I don't know what their plan was for him. I worry, like, offensive line is one of those things where even when you recruit really well, you still only have so much depth, or at least depth that is ready to perform at the elite level that you need to win a national title, which is their goal. So anytime you're losing one of your starters before the season starts, it just automatically puts that depth it adds stress to the entire unit right from the jump.
And I will say this, on the opposite side of acting like it's no big deal, Riley Leonard was a freak runner at quarterback. So they might not have that luxury of having somebody who can escape as much as Riley Leonard last year to mask some of those offensive line issues.
Well, I mean, look, whether it is Carr, as is expected, CJ Carr, Lloyd Carr's grandson, or if it's like maybe Kenny Minchie, I mean, my guess is that they were going to use Kenny Minchie at least in some kind of packages anyway. I mean, like, that team was so good with QB run game. Den Brock traditionally has run the quarterback a pretty good bit. LSU, Cincinnati before that. Like, you'd have to kind of think that they would want to continue with some QB run game stuff, which is not CJ Carr's game.
Yeah.
But like, to your point, Danny, that's more like design quarterback run stuff I think they would do with Minchie. I don't think Minchie is anywhere near the pocket. Like, I can just playing the odds here. The kid that just left had like eyes in the back of his head. That was just supernatural ability to avoid pressure. It was crazy. But also, I don't know how many points they're going to need to score to beat Miami, right? Like, that team lost a ton at receiver. I think if Beck is good, the drop-off at receiver for Miami is far greater than the drop-off at quarterback.
If he's fully healthy.
And that's the guy that won the Heisman Trophy. Yeah, right, if he's back to health.
I want to spin this a different direction, though, because I saw a column about this yesterday from one of the Notre Dame recruiting sites. I can't remember which one. I think it was Blue and Gold Illustrated. Now that we're going to an NFL model, should players have to give back their NIL money if they get involved in accidents like this during the offseason? Are schools going to start telling players they can't do this because they do it with NFL guys?
Well, I would say I actually had to talk about it with somebody yesterday. The rev share thing is interesting, potentially. I think for your endorsement deals, probably not. Now, you can say, hey, Georgia successfully clawed back money from some of the guys that were doing the super speeder stuff last year, right? And I think that's probably true. But enough people have told me that I tend to believe it. I'm not reporting that, but that's a behavioral thing, right? Like you're breaking the law. Like there are all kinds of morals clauses in probably all of our contracts and contracts across, everything, employer or not, right? I don't know if you can put a restriction on activities that are legal in someone's endorsement deal. Maybe you can. For enough money, you can get somebody to agree to anything. But I don't know if they put that in there now. Maybe they'll try in the future.
Danny, did you have team rules about playing basketball or other, sort of the way that you should? I mean, we've had boating accidents, in college football that have always reared that. July 4th can kind of be a little bit of a cursed weekend for other activities leading to injuries.
I was going to try to pull it out, but it's probably buried somewhere. But you sign pretty much a standard NFL contract when you sign. It's just some of the terms and clauses are a little bit different. But in every NFL contract, there are definitely some restricted activities. When I lived in Denver, skiing was a big one. And I used to go skiing in the offseason if I would have gotten hurt skiing. But it also does say, basketball, you're not allowed, but everybody plays basketball. And we've seen players get hurt. We've had motorcycle accidents too, which I think even driving motorcycles might be prohibited from, NFL, contracts, that you're not allowed to do certain risky activities. And if you do, you can definitely lose some of your money if you do get hurt doing that. So you kind of take it on your own risk.
That is collectively bargained, and they're actually employees of the school, though.
Right.
Which is kind of a key,
Right. So did you see
we could probably save 60 seconds each show by just,
Did you see the criticism? I saw Urban Meyer called out Florida State for their contract specifically. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Yeah.
Where he and I think some of the language is exactly what we're talking about. If they didn't live up to the playing time, even if they were just injured, I think it was on the field. If they got hurt and their playing time was reduced, some of their pay would be reduced, which again is another unique aspect to it where we don't know a lot of these contracts. And Urban's point was, wait till people find out about this, but we don't know what a lot of the contracts look like.
Well, I think Urban's right and you're right. I don't think FSU is going to be able to do that contract come December, right? To me, it's kind of a one-shot thing. You, from an organizational standpoint, get tremendous value if some of these kids actually sign this, right? Which you shouldn't, at least without redlining it. And the guys who have real leverage and are really, really good will redline the hell out of it and won't sign it. And the school will probably cave. If you sign some 3-star who doesn't have real leverage and he signs that and he's locked in for 3 years and becomes an NFL guy, you get tremendous value as an organization. I think it was basically just a risk reward. Are we going to take a PR hit as a school on this? Yeah, probably, and Hummer did a good job reporting it. I think because the SEC and definitely the Big Ten have more standard, kind of form stuff with the rev share. The ACC has not given any guidance to schools on it yet. So you're kind of free to do whatever you want to do. It's just risk reward. Do I want to take a shot at this? And if you're the player, you kind of got to decide yes or no. I don't think you can do it 2 cycles in a row. I think it's a one-time thing.
Is that on the ACC to try to help its member schools? Is that on Florida State to maybe?
Philip will probably get asked about it. I would say Florida State knows what they're doing.
Okay, and that they're just doing the risk reward of okay,
all right, cool. We'll take a little PR hit, and
But guess what?
What are you going to do? Sit out of here and transfer 3-star?
Yeah, and also we spent all this money last season, and it bit us. So sorry if we're going to be a little bit more protective this go round.
Right.
So,
yeah.
No, a lot of interesting details there. What is the August 1st deadline? Because I know that we're about to hit a break and go into some other topics, including recruiting. And I know that Auburn fans are frustrated that Auburn is kind of getting run, the rest of the SEC is running away from Auburn in the recruiting rankings. But Auburn fans are August 1st, this is, and it has to do with contracts, right, Bud? How does that, is that supposed to be able to lead to different results on the trail?
So Auburn is not really killing it in recruiting right now, which is a pretty stark change from where they have been in prior years. Auburn right now is dead last in the SEC. They have 7 total commitments, and just 2 of those are rated 4 stars by 24/7 Sports. Okay, like they're 16th. Most all other schools in the SEC have at least 10. A lot of schools are coming up on 20, and Auburn fans are understandably mad about a lot of stuff right now. They're mad about how much Hugh Freeze is golfing. You saw Lane Kiffin troll Hugh Freeze.
Oh my God,
man, that was just.
Oh, you putting up Hugh Freeze
on the gym
right
Which
now?
one was that? Oh,
It's huge. Yeah.
Wait, hold on.
Shot an 82 the other day. Yeah. Just don't post them, Hugh.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, but you're going to call that by
money.
Strickler's going to call him out for not posting.
That's right. My buddies will input my scores for me, of course, only when they're a good score, and it pisses me off because I'm like, I found a sweet spot. I think I'm like a 3.2 or 3.3. I'm like, let's keep it there. And if I shoot a 74, their first thing they're running in there, plugging it into the system. Maybe
I tried to
3.3, Danny.
Maybe Hugh's got somebody doing that too.
3.3.
Danny Cannella 3.3.
Look at that.
It's more high
so-
scores.
All right, so on Auburn.
You want to put in
basically,
my
like,
scores, Danny? You want I've got a couple from CCNC. I've got Lonnie Poole. I got Crystal Coast. I got lots of ones that you can put in that'll change that. That's my dad, probably.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So, all right, on Freeze. So Freeze had made a comment that like Auburn's numbers right now are like a little low compared to some competitors. John Cohen, the AD at Miss State, was like, hey, we think our interpretation of House and the new rules is correct. And essentially the word coming out of Auburn that they kind of want passed around is like, we're not going to do this verbal offer game. We're just going to let our written offer speak for itself. So, they maybe they'll tell you about this, but maybe there's more to come later, and everybody else is kind of promising everything in the future. Right now, I don't know if I totally buy that. Auburn has typically been a school that spends like crazy and has never been afraid to spend, even back before it was legal. So I think that Auburn spent like crazy the last couple high school recruiting classes. We know that their plan, and we've said this on the show many times, was to load up high school, load the roster, and then fill the holes with the transfer class, which is what they just tried to do. Now, they probably did plan like Jackson Arnold is the best kid we can get at quarterback, because like that feels very, high reward, but also very high risk, right? If you're an Auburn mega booster, you're like, let's see some wins.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think there is a bit of Auburn sitting on their wallet for now. But I don't think there's any question that Auburn still has plenty of money in the wallet. But like if this season goes poorly, think about how much some of these guys are going to cost to keep on the roster. Like they already had to pony up to keep Ken Coleman. Like they've got a very, very expensive roster. I heard Greg McElroy today say that Auburn is a top 5 payroll in the sport of college football. So they're already spending a lot of money to assemble this roster, which does have real upside. And yeah, they're losing out on kids, I think, because of that. Because they're not willing to say verbally, hey, we're going to give you this, this, and this. And maybe they will come August 1, which is the day you can issue a written offer, to kind of circle back to Chip's question. So August 1 is the day you can officially present written offers. But, we'll see. I think for some of these guys, they're going to want to see a little more than August 1. They're going to want to see like win number 1, 2, and 3, and 4. And they've got that A&M game, the Oklahoma game, and the Baylor game early on in the season that are going to matter a whole lot. Because if Freeze sucks this year, they're probably going to fire him.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they're not going to stay around for 4 more years of that. Like, they're going to find somebody else who they get in there and win. Especially if he does stuff like lose to
the block numbers,
Vandy, New Mexico State and stuff.
What do you say, Tom?
They do have their block numbers back, though, on the new uniforms.
Oh, my God. Yeah, we've had new uniforms coming out left and right.
I jokingly, tweeted, because they did the reveal. I was like, wow, these look the new Nike Auburn uniforms. I was like, wow, they look totally different. I can't tell, it's like they're night and day. And I had a bunch of Auburn fans like, the block numbers are back, stupid. It's like, oh, shit, my bad, guys.
And I think we discussed it at the time, but remember at the golf tournament that they have there in Birmingham, Hugh Freeze was like, I'm not a fool. We need to go to a bowl game. And all the Auburn fans were like, you better go to a bowl game or else it's not even going to make it to November. I do think 8 wins is kind of the floor for where Hugh Freeze needs to be to alleviate any sort of hot seat conversation. If he's 7, he might be gone. And if it's 6-6, it's almost a guarantee he's gone.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the Auburn schedule, find me a 7-5 record that would be acceptable to Auburn boosters who are paying for a top 5 payroll.
Right. Like because you can get to 4 or 5 by even letting anyone coach.
And
Like
it's not that the losses would be unacceptable as much as it would be like, who the hell did we beat?
There's nothing that you can be proud of.
You'd be like, okay, so we're paying top 5 payroll, again, according to Greg McElroy, and our wins are Mercer, Vandy, Kentucky, by this time of the year, probably a zombie Arkansas team, Missouri, Ball State, and South Alabama.
If they lose to Baylor to start the year, which I think is very much within the realm of possibility, like then you've got 2 road games in the SEC. Like you should beat Ball State and South Alabama, whatever. But then you've got to go at Oklahoma and at A&M. Like you're looking at an 0-3 start against P4 competition and being 2-3 overall before that Georgia game. It's like there's enough to wonder if Hugh even survives the year, because there's that bye before Georgia. And if they're 2-3 or something at that point,
speaking of hot seats, this week on CBS Sports, we will have our hot seat rankings coming out. Kind of like it this year. We have opened up, obviously, the Dodd-father, the great one, Dennis Dodd held this thing down. Now we've got 9 different experts who contribute. So we're going to have composite ratings. So instead of just a 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we got some, 1.99. We got some 0.83 for somebody who's got no heat whatsoever. We just got 1 across the board 5. But when you get down into the 4s, that's where you're going to find Auburn. That's where you're going to find Arkansas. That's where you're going to find Oklahoma, and you're going to find Oklahoma State. And so one factor, even before we voted on this, was Oklahoma, Brent Venables, on that sort of a hot seat bowl early in the season on that Auburn schedule. We find out today, according to ESPN and others, Joe Castiglione, the longtime athletic director at Oklahoma, will retire from his full-time role during the upcoming school year. Tom, that's not what you want to hear. If you're Brent Venables, in terms of, do I have anyone in my corner to fight for me in terms of securing my future for 2026 and beyond?
I don't think that's ideal, but I also wonder if there's a part of it that could be beneficial to Brent Venables, because
if they haven't done the transition yet.
Like if Joe C is sitting there planning to retire, does he want his last act before going off into the sunset to fire a coach and then do a coaching search? Or does he pass it on to his replacement? So therefore, maybe buying Brent another year.
It's a good question.
Danny, do we have any report from Dusty?
It's just that he put it on the text thread to discuss tomorrow and said, quote, "That's a big one." But he said it was expected. I mean, he's the longest tenured athletic director in the country. He's one of the better, well-known athletic directors. He's done a great job with Oklahoma, but I wouldn't feel great if I'm Brent Venables. I don't know if I buy in the buys you 1 extra year. I think if anything, it puts you under a little bit more pressure.
Think so?
I mean, I think so. Oklahoma has traditionally been pretty intentional about stuff. It doesn't always work, but it generally does. And I think part of that has been Castiglione, but when Bob Stoops retired, I mean, don't you think he did it to be able to hold the roster together, and also because he wanted to give it to Lincoln Riley?
Yeah, that's why he did it in June.
Right, exactly. I mean, I don't think Castiglione is just unless there's something I don't know about. It's just okay, I'm just out now. Now's the time. I'm gonna be done during the season. So I would wonder what the transition plan is for the Sooners, and does that guy want to make a fire and a hire in the first month on the job? I don't know. They get Mateer for 2 years or 1?
2, I want to say. I want to say 2, but I'm not sure.
He is draft eligible after this season, but I think he has college eligibility for another year beyond 2025.
Okay. That makes sense.
It depends. It's like talking to Ryan Wilson, our CBS Sports draft expert. He was like, hey, so I watched John Mateer. That guy's crazy. I was like, yeah, I know. That's kind of what the John Mateer experience is. We'll see if it works in the SEC.
I listened to that to his podcast, which I should know the name because it's in my feed.
With the first pick.
With the first
Yeah,
pick.
with the first pick with Rand Carthon, who was he was the GM of the Titans, I think.
And a Gator.
That was a pretty interesting quarterback discussion.
So we'll see if John Mateer is
like Rand was very out on Klubnik as like a 1-1 guy.
That's fine. I think we are too.
Rand knows ball.
Yeah, when I see him in person, I'm like, I agree with you, Rand. Yeah.
Anyway, lots of lots of stuff to dig into. We appreciate you rocking with us all through sort of a meandering opening segment, but a lot to get to, a lot of different threads with it. Let's turn our focus to the recruiting trail. So coming up on the other side, the number 1 offensive tackle in the upcoming recruiting class is committed to Texas Tech. Let's look at that NIL deal. Plus, Alabama and Syracuse making waves and more. Next.
The clock never stops. Relive the greatest moments with uninterrupted highlights and more.
It's Gareth Bale! No! Wonderful goal!
On the UEFA Champions League channel. Streaming free.
Back here on the Cover 3 podcast, we love how the tailgate gets rocking and rolling early before the show at 8:37 a.m. Eastern Time. Ian jumped in and said, what's the Cover 3 crew and chat's thoughts on Felix Ojo's NIL deal? Bud, do you have any deeper insight into the details of it? This is the number 1 offensive tackle in the 2026 class. He committed to Texas Tech. We've got reports of a 3-year guaranteed deal. I know there was some of the reporting. Shahan Jayaraja was able to offer some clarification as well. I saw that in the newsroom from over the weekend. But what is your understanding of Ojo's deal and sort of, whether it is impactful on sort of the larger NIL recruiting trail?
So I think this is the deal that says Texas Tech's trying to win like a national title. Right? You go out. You spend this kind of money, and whether it's, I think Zenit said it was in the 700s per year for a 3-year, right? Or I've seen the other reporting. It says like it's capable of making up to over 5 for a 3-year deal. Which certainly, if the kid hits, you would pay that because you're going to pay that like close to that in the transfer portal for 2 years of the guy. But I do think it says something that Texas Tech is really kind of here to stay as a player as long as Cody Campbell is there. To keep bankrolling this thing. And I know he's not the only one, but he's kind of like the main one, right? When we talk Michigan, we talk Larry Ellison because that's the dude that ponied up for Bryce Underwood. So I think like Texas Tech is really trying to shoot the moon here. I don't know how ready Felix Ojo is going to be able to play in year 1. Now, granted, in the Big 12, you don't really see very many NFL defensive linemen compared to what you see in the other 3 P4 leagues. And I know, the SEC is more than the Big 10, and Big 10 is more than the ACC, but like the Big 12 is the one that's like definitively not a line of scrimmage league for whatever reason. So getting a guy like this, if he hits, it does give you a pretty massive advantage. And Texas Tech likes to run a lot of this spread stuff. And if you got just an absolute stud left tackle, you can run a lot of open stuff. You can be detached. You don't have to have a tight end right there. And Tech has really, under this administration, has been very much like measurables, upside. And so far, I think you'd have to say it has failed, right? Like their high school stuff got a lot of positive write-ups, and a lot of people love that staff and all the guys, like the Texas high school, like Texas in-state media loved that staff. And I was like, I'm
Texas loves Texas.
Right. Like I think the approach makes sense. It just really hadn't worked, right? Like they haven't really developed many guys. Almost all their starters are transfers. But they also weren't fishing in this kind of pond earlier, right? Like this is a very, very different caliber of athlete, and the teams they beat out were serious like national title contending teams. So if all of a sudden you're going to start spending like that, and I'm sure Texas Tech blew everybody else out of the water money-wise because they have to, because they're Texas Tech. Like if I get a chance to go to Athens and play for a team that has a track record of developing me, you know what? It's going to take me a lot more money than what Georgia will pay me to go live in Lubbock, to be honest. And it looks like they're willing to do so. So that's pretty cool. And that's probably part of their pitch to justify these NIL deals as well. Like part of this is, hey, get cool people to come to Lubbock and make Lubbock more of a destination. I think it makes all the sense in the world, and good on them. It's really cool also that we are seeing like we're seeing more teams get good players. You know, we
Mm.
can talk about the eradication of the G5 as like something that as many people watch. And I think that's probably fair. But we have more teams now that are getting like actual real stud players than we used to. There's no more like Nick Saban where he's hoarding guys in his two deep that would be all conference elsewhere. Like that's tougher to maintain that level of depth now.
I think this deal is fascinating because of the disparity you've seen in some of the reporting. 2.3 was the number that was confirmed, 775 a year. I was like, all right, that makes sense. But then you see reports of 5 million, over 5 million. And I thought I saw Bruce Feldman's piece, which was really good because he said he confirmed with the agent that the 775 a year was accurate. But then because the agent put it out there, I think the 5.1. And there were two things that they were looking at, and Bruce Feldman kind of got these numbers and these, so the 70-75 per year is for the revenue sharing pool, but it's a verbal agreement that can escalate the total value of the contract into that $5 million range under two things. If there were a large jump in the revenue sharing cap for schools, or if there is minimal regulation of schools adhering to the cap, which that to me is where that money's coming from. Because I've seen some of the projections, the cap from 20.5, I think in year 2, it's expected to go to like 23. It's not going to double or do anything crazy, I don't think. So where does that extra money come from? They are watching to see what the CSC does. So if you start seeing deals rejected and fought and real regulation with teeth where it deters and prohibits deals, then I think this deal is closer to 2.3 and it's closer to an accurate number. If you see people fight and win, he's going to get close to the $5 million. So I think it's really interesting that we've got like a deal in place with a verbal agreement saying, we don't know, we're going to keep an eye on it. And I do think Texas Tech is a school you can trust because they've got Cody Campbell, the backer, and they're going to push the limits as much as they can. So we don't know the exact value, but they're going to push the limits as much as they can, which I think everybody's trying to do.
I just hope he's a great player because now that all this is out there, there are going to be so many more eyes on him than there had been if he was just another 5-star tackle going to Georgia. You know what I mean? It'd been like we talk about his draft prospects, but now if Texas Tech is going 7-5 and he's giving up a sack, it's going to be this kid's a bust.
$2.3 million sack.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just I hope he's great, so he doesn't have to deal with any of the crap.
And if he ends up sucking, then they're not going to be paying the $5 million upside, right?
Right.
I
like our friend Garrett. Basically, verbal agreement. If it turns into the Wild West, we can now, here's what we're going to do to pay you more. If people are out here tampering, if people are out here poaching, and that's like, if not adhering to the salary cap, if everyone else is going to try to just say the rules don't matter, well, don't worry, Felix, because the rules won't matter to us then either. Okay. We've got this extra gear. We've got this extra room of bags. And if we need to break them out, we just want to let you know we can do that.
Like, I think one thing we could say here is that if he hits, Texas Tech will not lose him to the portal over money.
Correct.
Like, that's it. You're paying for the opportunity to get this guy in the door. You are saying, hey, we believe in our development program, whether or not that's justified so far with their results. I have serious questions about that. But we believe in our development. We're paying to get this kid through the door. And look, if he leaves at some point, it won't be over money.
I will say one of the best edge rushers he'll be in the NFL by then, by the time Ojo gets it. I was going to say one of the best edge rushers in the Big 12 is at Texas Tech. It's David Bailey coming over from Stanford.
Yeah.
But, Stanford will be not Stanford. Bailey will likely be off to the NFL. A couple more recruiting items of note. Alabama's been on a little bit of a tear. I mean, I know that doesn't come as a huge surprise, but it was always wondered whether Kalen DeBoer would be able to truly stockpile talent in a way that would allow Alabama to meet its program standard. He's, preparing for a pressure-packed year 2, where I think making the college football playoff is a expectation, if not a demand, from a lot of those fans. But when you look ahead to 2026 and beyond, the class is getting better. We got blue chip wide receiver Sedarian Morgan, but a lot of other players, even in the defensive backfield as well. But what's the buzz and sort of word on the recruiting trail in terms of what are the prospects buying into? What do people see in Kalen DeBoer's Alabama that should give Tide fans some encouragement moving forward?
So a couple things. I think you can say, hey, look what we did at Washington. Look what we did at Fresno. And think about what we can do at Alabama. So that there is some of that. They did put a lot of guys in the draft this last year as well, even though the win-loss, wasn't all that impressive. I don't think recruits care about win-loss that much. Like they care about, getting sent to the NFL. Like, why do you go to college? Prepare yourself for your job outside of college. I mean, there's certainly some win-loss that matters, but it wasn't like, Bama went 5-7, although some of their fans act like they did. I think Bama got its money right. And so that's been something that I think has been a positive thing on the recruiting trail. We'd said they're a little bit behind the times there when Saban was there, because I don't think Saban, for a guy that innovated early on so many things, that was just one thing I think he was a little bit behind on in NIL. And I think is one of the reasons why he ultimately quit the sport. I think he's like, oh, shoot, I probably needed to get that going a little bit earlier. The Edwards kid, though, Dre Edwards, dude, he's a hell of a player, man. Like really, really versatile DB, big. I mean, you saw the photo there, but like that guy can scoot. I think he's got really nice instincts. That's shoot. Okay. Got to make sure I don't say something silly here. Ooh. I think he has as much upside as any safety Bama signed, not counting the Downs thing, since Minka. So really, really nice player.
Nice. It was for Alabama. Obviously Ryan Williams is one of the biggest stars in the sport. We have had kind of a slump for Alabama pass catchers since they were just loaded up across the board 5 years ago.
They took that one class that got hyped like crazy. Was it the COVID class? Had like Christian Leary, JoJo Earl. They all busted.
And they all transferred out.
Yeah.
Danny, you buying into Alabama stockpiling talent? I saw another, speaking of NFL talent, people are looking at the 2025 Alabama team as being the school that could end up putting out the most NFL draft picks for 2026 and beyond. We look at them as a top 3 team in the SEC. You buying Alabama going into a big year for Coach DeBoer?
Yeah, I mean, their roster, especially on the defensive side of the ball, is going to be as good as anybody. I think it's interesting because I do think the spending is finally, like, they're starting to open up their wallets a little bit too for the recruits. I mean, I think they kind of, I don't know if they were hoping that they would still get the Nick Saban discount even though he was gone, but I think they've, Greg Byrne was on the record talking about how they've increased their recruiting budget, where I think it's doubled over the last 2 years. So they're starting to catch up. I think that's probably helped as well. But I think Caitlin DeBoer, I think it's all part of the process. It's still Bama. It's still extremely attractive. I think he's a great recruiter, and now you've got the money to back it. I think it makes total sense.
Winners get washed, So does Syracuse coach Fran Brown get a soak now? I mean, not even like a shower, but like a soak when you go in and you go into Miami. Okay. Mm-hmm. You are going into South Florida with one of the top wide receivers in the 2026 class, and you're saying you come up to Syracuse, New York. I mean, you're beating out Florida State. You're beating out Oregon. You're beating Michigan for one of the top wide receivers in the class. He threw that little screenshot of TV off, let them know. I don't know if we were talking about mustard. Like, I don't know exactly like where in his own world of references that fits, but man, that's Syracuse football. Not used to bringing that in. Are we buying it? Like, is this a single individual recruiting win, or is this a piece of a larger take notice to the rest of the ACC for Syracuse?
Let's just go positive on this, right? Like the negative is obviously, hey, their win total's 5.5 juiced under. Vegas is like last year was a mirage. You had an NFL quarterback and like the easiest schedule in the country. And now you have to play a real schedule, and we don't think you're that good. Fine. That could happen. This could all fall apart, but that's kind of not really fun. So let's focus on the fun, okay? They go in to Miami, Northwestern. Now, they took 3 kids last year from that school as well, and they have a lot of ties. This is not a one-off for Fran Brown. Like, Fran Brown was a hell of a recruiter at Georgia, like a really, really good recruiter. I don't think their recruiting DB-wise is quite as good since he left. Like, that guy was awesome. They're doing something there. I don't know if it will work, but like if it did work out, this is, I think, how you'd want it to look. Calvin Russell also a really like legitimately good basketball player. Now, I don't think he's an NBA player, but I don't know that. I don't scout the NBA. Like he's probably needs to be a little bit taller to be like a legitimate NBA guy, but he's like 6'5".
Yep.
I mean, he can really, really ball. I know Ivan was talking about a game he saw. He went like 38 and 20 and 10 or something like that in the state quarterfinals. So like that doesn't suck. That's I guy's filling it up. Body control is really, really good. I think speed's a question for sure. But he's not old for the grade level. Mom is a Hall of Famer for University of Miami basketball. It came down to Syracuse and Michigan. And I think Michigan felt good and Syracuse felt better. So like he's going to play both, I guess, up there. And he was going to play both at Michigan. Is that the best decision for him? I don't know. But I'm excited to see how this plays out. And I know the chat's like, hey, they're going to miss a bowl and all this stuff's going to fall apart. Sure, it could. I don't want to focus on that. Like that's boring. Like it could happen, but it's not guaranteed to. Stuff happens all the time. So, it's pretty cool to see.
The best decision he could have made was going to Illinois because they offered him a basketball scholarship. And I'm sure Brett Bielema would have happily let him walk onto the football team if he'd come to play basketball at Illinois. I think this is a huge win for Syracuse. And yeah, like you're saying, they have to hold on to him, but there's always skepticism when a 5-star of this caliber talent commits to a school you don't expect him to commit to, especially early in the process. So that skepticism, I think, is natural just because we don't see it. But he might be 100% dead set on doing it. He might love Fran Brown. He might want to play for Fran Brown no matter what the record is this year. He might really believe in the culture and the coaching staff and want to go and be a difference maker. There are some kids that want to take the path less traveled. Maybe he's one of them. Either way, if you're a Syracuse fan, this is a huge win for you. And I do think, there aren't a lot of 6'5" receivers coming out of high school these days. There aren't, like, we see a lot of these smaller slot kind of, burner dudes. There aren't a lot of the T. Higginses, the Julio Joneses, the big body monsters anymore. So I think getting one of these guys gives you an advantage, particularly in the red zone, especially if you're Syracuse and you don't have an elite quarterback, like a guy that could just go make plays with his size because he's going to be towering over every defensive back trying to cover him. So I think this could be huge for Syracuse.
You know who had one the last couple of years and used them? Syracuse. Oronde Gadsden was a 6'5", big body wide receiver. I think it's interesting in light of the comments that Fran Brown made about Trevor Pena when he left. Remember, he was like,
I'm not paying $2 million for a wide receiver. The only one I would plays for Ohio State.
Right. So I just thought that was interesting because I wonder how much. I mean, I don't think it was the $2 million. He felt Pena was overrated or overvalued, and he still liked him and he wished him luck. He's just like, I'm not paying that much. I do wonder what it took to get, Russell there. And maybe it was relational. Maybe because I do think he is a relational recruiter who connects with the players. And that's great to see. And I think it goes back to Bud's point earlier in the show, and Tom just made it again, about some of the talent spreading around. This should be refreshing and celebrated. All right, we all want parity. Like, we want to see teams get excited about their rosters. So I think it's great.
Let's keep that sort of that tier going because we've got Texas Tech recruiting news from a big couple weeks of recruiting. We've got Syracuse and we've got the Kentucky Wildcats. Who says that they ain't thinking about the future in Lexington? Because we've got blue chip quarterback Matt Penetoski. Bud, talk to me. What do we need to know about this for Kentucky?
This is the kid. If we throw it back to the Elite 11 episode, this was the baseball kid I was saying.
Yeah,
the guy who throws 97. He plays for Moeller, which is like a really good high school there in Cincinnati, kind of a legendary baseball program as well. Again, do I think he's ever actually going to take a snap for Kentucky football? No. But is it really cool to think about if he does? Yeah, man, because like I thought he was really good at Elite 11. Like he throws a really nice ball, and other high school receivers out there couldn't really handle it because that's a whole lot of juice if you throw 97. But man, he was fun to watch. Really cool kid to talk to, and it was I think it was like Missouri and Kentucky and a couple other schools down there at the end, and that's a nice win for Mark Stoops, who obviously needs some positive momentum at Kentucky in the worst way. I do worry like Kentucky fans kind of forget the job that Stoops has done there. And it's almost the Minnesota fans hate when we say this, but Connolly coined the term like Glenn Mason territory.
Mm-hmm.
When like you keep hitting the ceiling every single year and all of a sudden fans forget like that is the ceiling and they expect more than that. And you're like, bro, we're already redlining like this. we are maxed out like every year. But no, I don't think maybe he'll play football there. That'd be awesome. But like it's certainly fun to think about. The chat does not think he's going to play football.
Yeah, Chad Tailgate does not think he's going to play football, and I'm just over here chuckling, remembering that those poor Cal Poly wide receivers just
also
get their hands.
He's not even a pitcher yet.
Oh man,
like he's a really legitimately good position player hitter.
Mm-hmm.
So
good stuff. All right, coming up on the other side. Tomorrow, Tuesday, Big 12 Media Days are going to get started. We will be reacting to it later in the week, but we'll set the table with some of the storylines that we are following and more next.
Get ready.
Wait a second. I thought we were going tubing.
All 3 Sonic the Hedgehog movies and Knuckles are now streaming on Paramount Plus.
And everyone loves it.
Every adventure,
Just try to keep up.
every face-off,
This ends now.
and every moment that will have you saying,
Where have you been? My entire life!
It's showtime.
all 3 Sonic the Hedgehog movies and the entire Sonic universe are now streaming on Paramount Plus.
Back here on the Cover 3 podcast. Media Days are here. Talking season in full swing. This week, we'll have the Big 12 down in Frisco, Texas. Week after that, we will have SEC. The following week, of course, we will have you covered from the Big 10 Media Days, ACC Media Days going on as well. So as we get started with Big 12, DK, why don't you get first draft pick here? What's on your mind that you're going to be paying attention to? You're going to be trying to keep tabs on for Big 12 Media Days.
Coach Prime always drives the needle. I'm curious to see what they do post Shedeur, post Travis Hunter. Is he as cocky and brash as he always is, or is there going to be a little bit of a, hey, admittedly, this is going to be a rebuild year? I'm kind of curious to see his approach. And then I'm also curious to see what Kenny Dillingham brings to the table in year 2, like trying to get back to the college football playoff after the expectations were set so low, last year, and him exceeding those. How do they, bounce back this year and try to run it back again? He brings great energy. He's always somebody I'm excited to hear from, and kind of excited to hear what he thinks about his roster.
He's bringing 2 quarterbacks with him, Colorado.
Yes. No better way to like get things laser focused on one huge chunky topic. Mm-hmm. Who follows Shedeur Sanders? And oh, by the way, I've brought both of the candidates to the table.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, Dion, thank you. I mean, for us, we're going to talk about the whole conference, but for a lot of people that are just tasked with writing about the big story, well, yeah. The big story is that Shedeur Sanders, a main character of football now, especially after things went in the NFL draft, who follows him? I mean, it's honestly probably going to get more chatter than how do you replace Travis Hunter, which along with the other wide receivers that Colorado has lost is like, buddy, whoever wins this quarterback position, do they have anyone to throw to? I mean, it's Tom, where's your Colorado confidence right now?
Not high. I mean, I don't think they're going to be competing for the conference title this year, but they could. Like, I think they could, whether it's Salter or Lewis, I think they could have a good quarterback. But the rest of that roster, I'm just not completely sold on right now. And it's a very much I need to see it. But that's how I feel about a lot of teams that kind of build the way that Colorado does, where they're so portal dependent. It's like I need to see it in practice before I can really have any kind of set opinion on it.
I mean, I had him at 6-6 on CBS HQ the other day. I was on with Adam Munster. Tiger does a great job for us on 24/7 Sports, and I got a lot less blowback for that from Colorado fans than I did in prior years. But there are definitely like Colorado fans out there, and we have definitely some Colorado fans in the tailgate. It's the Big 12. Like, you got a lot of coin flip type games that there are not that many games that they have that I feel like are unwinnable. You have 2 quarterbacks who have talent. I think there's some chance that at least one of them emerges as a good player. I think Salter probably fits a little bit more of maybe what their personnel is for this year, a little more run game, a little more defense. Not that he can't pass, but a better runner than Juju Lewis is. Maybe if the receivers are a little bit better than we think they are, then maybe Lewis fits better. But we'll see. I thought they coached the defense extremely well last year. They confused people. I had them 6-6, but like Wet Blanket in the chat said, who had Colorado 9-3 last year? Not me. So Tom did. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
I think their ceiling is 8-4. I think their floor is 5-7. I could see them missing a bowl. I don't see a bottom falling out.
I think that's a generous floor.
Agreed.
Random number I mean, this gets to my biggest question: is will there be a Renegade preseason poll?
So
let's do it. Let's do
so
it.
I'm saying we need to do it.
Yeah.
Do I want to go there? All right. So we know who is last in the SEC in recruiting. Who's last in the Power Four?
Is it Colorado?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like their message boards are all like, hey, Deion hasn't been on campus. Obviously,
health issues.
Right. Exactly. Like it's hard to blame him for that.
Right.
We don't know how the season's going to play out. I don't, at least.
Well,
although do they have? Is their schedule such? I got to pull their schedule real fast. Like maybe Chip's right that they're backstopped at 5-7.
But aren't they? The recruiting thing is part of the plan. Like they're not worried about high school recruiting. They're worried about transfer portal. That's always been the MO since Deion's got there. And they have the second-rated transfer portal class in the Big 12. Like they're still right there where they want to be. But
bless you.
I still think things could fall apart too. I don't know if there's a floor.
So,
I think 4 wins, 3. I think anything's on the table. I really do.
That actually leads nicely into something that I'm looking at, because for 18 straight seasons, the Oklahoma State Cowboys were playing in a bowl game.
Yep.
18 straight seasons. In those 18 years, they finished ranked in the AP Top 25 poll 10 times. 3-9 is the worst record ever by a Mike Gundy coach team, and the worst since 2005, his first year when they were 4-7. So they go 4-7 in 2005, 18 straight years of winning football, or at least bowl eligible football, and then 3-9 with an 0-9 record in conference play. Vibe check on Mike Gundy. What is he saying? What are his players saying? I know we're talking about a bounce back, but what even is a bounce back for Oklahoma State?
I think if you're an Oklahoma State fan, you expect to return to a bowl, because as you said, that's been the bare minimum standard. Vegas doesn't see it.
I know. And I'm looking at the roster and you're like, okay, so what am I excited? What am I latching onto with this Oklahoma State team to give me confidence?
I'm a little curious as to which some of these new teams that just recently joined the league, like, do any of them give us reason to think they're going to really like leap up?
Wait, which in the Big 12?
Right, exactly.
What, like a Cincinnati, a Houston, a BYU?
Cincinnati, Houston, UCF.
I mean, it's not UCF.
Arizona.
We talk about this conference for being what it is. I will just point out that last year UCF was 1-3 in conference play in 1-score games. They were only a few plays away from being much better than they were. Oklahoma State was 0-3. Arizona was 0-2. Utah was 1-5.
Yeah.
It's just, Texas Tech was 5-1. Arizona State was 4-1. Like, the difference in this conference, even throughout an entire season, is typically only a few plays per game.
I was looking at this. Have we talked Retzlaff yet?
No.
I feel better talking about it now that we've got reporting of an expected transfer out.
Right.
Because when you just had, allegations and, we might have glossed over it. I'll tell you what, football wise, I'm changing my BYU expectations. I don't think either of the backups are like the kind of quarterback I would want to compete for a Big 12 championship. I think that in a conference of quarterbacks that includes Leavitt, Robertson, Becht, Daniels, Johnson, Hoover, Morton, Sorsby, that whoever BYU starter ends up being is going to be behind all of those names, and Devin Dampier to like throw another one on there. And while BYU, the roster in general probably has a somewhat high floor because of age, size, coaching, I just think that whatever aspect Jake Retzlaff brought, even if it wasn't traditional quarterbacking skills that would impress a pro scout, it did find to win some college football games.
I'm trying to say this in the right way. The teams that I think are, I won't say like, I'm not going to use the word biggest winners, like the teams that are like the most, the teams for which going to BYU now as a road game, it's like least detrimental to their chances to win the league, and thus like as one of their road games, it's a lot easier now, are Utah and TCU. Like those are the two conference contenders that had to go to Provo, and now I think that's a lot easier. Even though I don't think Retzlaff was amazing, but he did show some like he had some real, but he also had some real ability upside. I don't know if Hillstead, the kid that got from Utah State, is that.
This is every fan base, so I'm not just singling out BYU for this, but I do find it funny that last year, because I do my quarterback power rankings every week, and Jake Retzlaff last year, let's see his numbers. He finished with a 58% completion percentage, 8 yards per attempt, 20 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, but he also rushed for 400 yards and had 6 touchdowns. But I was not putting Retzlaff in my quarterback power rankings because I just don't think he's anything special. I think he's Jag to Jag plus-ish, just to being honest. But last year I was getting yelled at by BYU fans by saying Jake Retzlaff is real good, blah, blah, blah. Now that Jake Retzlaff is gone, well, no, there's not going to be much of a drop-off. Our backups will be just as good as he was.
He was your Eli Holstein.
Yeah. So it always amuses me, whereas last year Retzlaff was a god, but now that he's off the team, it's like he's not that big of a loss. We're going to be fine.
He was the whole BYU thing, the nickname, the Jewish quarterback, it was a fun story, which I think kind of added to his lore and kind of amplified him as a player. But I agree with you. I like when we talked about the Big 12 quarterbacks, we'd go through a list of 5 or 6 and then be like, oh yeah, Retzlaff's returning. Kind of like, they have a returning starter who won some games and played pretty well. But I don't think he was the driver of the success they had last year. So I don't think it's a devastating loss.
Not great vibes though.
No.
And the timing sucks.
Yes.
Yeah. Not great across the board for BYU. The problem is there are a lot of shiny objects, both in terms of quarterbacks and contenders, that you knock them off the table a little bit. I'm going to end up bouncing there. Okay. I've got, let's see. I was making a list. Post-Shadur, Travis Hunter, Danny, you mentioned that one. The conference of quarterbacks, we just kind of mentioned it, especially with the Retzlaff. Mike Gundy. I think Texas Tech, do the dollars spent convert into wins? I think that's, people are going to talk about Cody Campbell, and that'll be an interesting thing to hear. Maybe the players offer some insight to it. But, come on, guys. Familiar faces, old places. Homecomings, reunions. We get to hear from Rich Rodriguez back at West Virginia. What is he feeling going back to a place where he had so much success, coming off of a 3-year run at Jacksonville State with 27 wins and 2 conference titles, one in the A-Sun at the FCS level? And like Scott Frost, where you been? What have you learned? Is he going to sell us the personal journey, or is he going to try to Men in Black, like erase our memory? He is one of the most unsuccessful Nebraska coaches of the modern era. So, how we doing? You're back at UCF. I'm not giddy to hear it. I'm interested. I'm interested to see what Scott Frost has to say about the Knights and about his own journey. Have I missed something? It's been kind of quiet. Orlando, where we at? What do the UCF diehards in the neighborhood think about Scott Frost coming back?
I don't think there's like a ton of positive buzz, but like at least not for this year. But it's not like negative. It's just kind of like, all right. The Gus thing didn't work. I thought Gus tried to go after way too many guys that like at one time had Florida State or Miami or Florida offers, to look good for the boosters, do like that. I was at Auburn. I understand how like big time recruiting works, and it's like adverse selection to the max. It's like, okay, dude, you're getting these guys, but did the other schools really want them like full throttle, or So that's not what Scott Frost did. Like Scott Frost did a pretty good job when he was there of scouring Florida, as did his predecessor. Like the roster he took over was far better than 0-12, which is what they went. So even back then you could see some pretty crazy turnarounds and whatnot. But I think they understand it's probably a bit of a slow build. Like last year was definitely a year UCF spent, and it didn't work. So they got lucky that Gus, I think Gus wanted to leave, and
Now they've got Scott Frost back, probably at a discount, right?
Yeah, it's not a crazy discount, but he's not making like $8 million.
Yeah.
Will
Again,
Whittingham apologize for the whole Cam Rising thing?
thank you. Thank you. Kyle Whittingham in general. You've announced the succession plan. Is this it for you? What do you think about 2 years that were really frustrating, at least in terms of the injury front, and definitely with your quarterback, RIP, who left us far too young, big ups to Cam Rising in the sky. So Utah's another great one there. Any other storylines to keep our eye on?
Like I said earlier, I want to see the Renegade media poll.
Yes.
Yeah,
because they're terrified. Like their Big 12's having a really hard time shaking the random number generator allegations if they're not even going to do a media poll anymore.
Big 12 lost a lot of really good skill talent. I am curious to hear like who maybe has been crushing it in summer workouts. But all right, like here's another guy we need to be watching out for. Iowa State lost all their good receivers, at least the ones we knew about at the time. Obviously, Arizona lost McMillan. Colorado lost Travis Hunter. Like, there's a lot of pass catching star power in this league that is now gone. So, who's got next?
And
that's what I want to know.
Yeah, for fans who might not always be up on the way to do this, what Bud's talking about right there, a great way to do this is to find your 24/7 sports beat reporter, because he or she is gonna get those answers in the breakout sessions. Like what you get on the podium is probably going to be a little bit more prepared, and maybe not as much of, giving you, like if a name gets mentioned up there, it's because the coach wants the player to hear it. But, when you get into those breakout sessions, when you get into those scrums, you get a little bit more insight on the depth chart. Of course, 24/7 Sports beat writers on the scene will be able to keep you apprised of all of that good information. All right. We will be back on Wednesday with some reaction to day 1 of the Big 12 Media Days on Tuesday. Looking ahead to day 2 as well. More look ahead to the rest of the month as we continue with our Media Days tour. And you can follow him on Twitter at Tom Fernelli. You can follow him at BudElliott3. You can follow him at Danny Cannell. Follow me at Chip_Patterson. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
See ya.